Welcome back to Yehoshua's Daf Yomi Shiur, where the Daf continues daily until the complete revelation of Mashiach ben David, Messiah, the son of David. And today we'll be studying Tractate Chullin, page 81a, and the Amud starts in the middle of a line, so I'll start from the last line of 80b, which is Rabbi Zera Amar Hanach Lemechusar Zman Deha Kasuv. Rabbi Zera said, leave the prohibition against sacrificing an animal whose time has not yet arrived, as the verse. And now we're on 81a, top of the page. Nit ko le'aseh, transmuted it from the standard prohibition of it shall not be accepted, which is violated in the case of the other disqualifications, into a prohibition that stems from a positive mitzvah. Nit ko le'aseh, my time is Biyoim hashmini v'halo yiratzeh miyoim hashmini in mikara lo lav haba miklal asei. Okay. Transmuted from the standard prohibition of it shall not be accepted, which is violated in the case of other disqualification, into a prohibition that stems from a positive mitzvah. What is the reasoning by which this is derived? It is derived from that which the verse states, from the 8th day and forward, it may be accepted for an offering, Leviticus 22:27, which teaches that from the 8th day after its birth, yes, it may be sacrificed as an offering, but initially, before the 8th day, no, it may not be sacrificed. Therefore, this is a prohibition that stems from a positive mitzvah, which is not considered a negative prohibition for which one is flogged, but rather a positive mitzvah. Apotriki. Rabbi Apotriki Rami Kesiv. Yehoshua Yomim Tachas Imoi. Laila Chazeh. Kesiv. Miyoim Hashmini v'hala Yerotzeh. Miyoim Hashmini v'hala in. Laila lo. The Gemara asks, but this verse is required for the statement of Rabbi Aptariki, as Rabbi Aptariki raises a contradiction. It is written, then it shall be 7 days with his mother, Leviticus 22:27, indicating that on the night after the 7th day, it is already fit to be sacrificed. But it is also written in that verse, from the 8th day and forward, it may be accepted, indicating that from the 8th day forward, yes, it is fit, but on the night before, it is not. HaKetzad laila likedusha yoim leharzo ksiv krachrina kein taseh lishachol et zoinecho. How can these texts be reconciled? The night after the 7th day is fit for consecration, which is permitted at that time, while the 8th day is fit for effective acceptance, and only then may it be sacrificed on the altar. The Gemara answers that another verse is also written that specifies this positive mitzvah. So shall you do with your ox and with your sheep. 7 days shall it be with its mother. On the 8th day you shall give it to me. Exodus 22:29. Amar Rav Hamnuna Oimer Chaya Rabbi Shimon Ein Osav Yespeno Noig Bekadoshim My Time Kevon Davar Rabbi Shimon Shchita she'enu ruya lo yishma shchito Shchitas kadoshim Nami shchito she'eino ra'ui lehi. The Gemara returns to discussing Rabbi Shimon's opinion with regard to slaughtering an animal and its offspring on the same day. Rav Hamnuna says that Rabbi Shimon would say the prohibition against slaughtering an animal itself and its offspring does not apply to sacrificial animals. What is the reason? The reason is that since Rabbi Shimon says that an act of slaughter that is unfit to permit consumption is not considered to have halakhic status of an act of slaughter, the prohibition will not apply here. This case of slaughtering sacrificial animals is also considered slaughter that is unfit, in that the flesh may not be burned upon the altar or eaten until the blood has been presented. Rabbi Shimon omer sheini belo ta'aseh shehayu Rabbi Shimon omer kol ha'oi lavoi l'achazman harehu belo ta'aseh ve'ein boi kores v'chachomim oimrim she'ein boi kores eino belo ta'aseh. Rava raises an objection from the Braita. If one slaughtered an animal itself and its offspring, and both animals were sacrificial animals slaughtered outside the temple courtyard, Rabbi Shimon says, for slaughtering the second animal, he transgresses a prohibition in slaughtering it outside the temple, as Rabbi Shimon would say. With regard to any offering that is fit to come to the altar after a certain amount of time, and is offered outside the temple before that time, he who slaughters it transgresses a prohibition, but there is no liability to receive karet. And the rabbis say, with regard to any offering slaughtered outside the temple, for which there is no liability to receive karet, because it is unfit to be an offering at that time, he who sacrifices it also does not transgress a prohibition. V'kashilon kodoshim b'chutz sheini b'lo ta'aseh kama miktal katal sheini mitkabel b'fnim hu kores nami lichayev. And this statement in the Braita is difficult for us. If both animals are sacrificial animals slaughtered outside the temple courtyard, Rabbi Shimon says, for slaughtering the second animal, he transgresses a prohibition for slaughtering outside the temple. According to Rabbi Shimon, slaughter that is unfit for consumption is not considered slaughter. Therefore, with regard to the first animal, it is as if he had killed it without ritual slaughter, since its slaughter was unfit, and the second animal would be accepted inside the temple upon the altar. Therefore, let one who slaughters it outside the temple be liable to receive karet as well. Rava Amri la k'di chasoi mesra v'hachi ketani kedash m'shnei machutz l'rabonan rishon anush kares sheni parasun bat milav l'shchutei chutz. And Rava said, and some say it was unattributed, the Braita is incomplete. And this is what it is teaching. If one slaughters an animal and its offspring that are both sacrificial animals, and both of them are slaughtered outside the temple courtyard, according to the opinion of the rabbis, the slaughter of the first animal is punishable by karet, while the second animal is disqualified at this time, has not yet arrived, and therefore it is slaughter one is exempt, and for slaughter one is exempt punishment for violating prohibition of offering slaughtered outside the temple. Let's read that again. And therefore, for its slaughter, one is exempt from punishment for violating the prohibition of offerings slaughtered outside the temple. What was I? Yeah. According to Rabbi Shimon, the slaughter of both of them, including the second one alone, is punishable by kares. This is because the slaughter of the first is not considered slaughter, and therefore it does not disqualify the second through the prohibition of itself and its offspring. If an animal and its offspring that are sacrificial animals are slaughtered the first one outside the temple courtyard, and the second one inside the temple courtyard. According to the opinion of the rabbis, the slaughter of the first punishment was kares, while the second animal was disqualified as its time has not yet arrived, and its slaughter is exempt from punishment for its slaughter outside the temple because he slaughtered it inside the temple. According to the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, the second animal is fit for the altar, and if it is sacrificed, the slaughter of the first animal is not considered slaughter, and therefore the slaughter of the second does not violate the prohibition of a mother and his offspring. Echad bifnim, v'echad b'chutz. L'Rabbanan rishon kosher u'patur. Sheni pasul u'patur, v'shimon sheni b'lo taseh. If an animal and its offspring that are sacrificial animals are slaughtered, the first one inside the temple courtyard, and the second one outside the temple courtyard, according to the opinion of the rabbis, the first animal is fit for the altar, and one who slaughters it is exempt from any punishment, as its slaughter is perfectly legitimate. The second is unfit for the altar, as it was slaughtered outside the temple, but its slaughter is exempt from punishment for its slaughter outside the temple because it is unfit for the altar, as its time has not yet arrived. According to the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, for slaughtering the second animal outside the temple, one transgresses a prohibition, as he holds that an offering whose time has not yet arrived that was slaughtered outside the temple violates a prohibition. Rava now explains his objection. And if it enters your mind, the prohibition of itself and its offspring does not apply to sacrificial animals, then with regard to slaughtering the second animal outside the temple, why does one transgress only a prohibition and nothing more? Let him be liable to receive karet as well, as since its slaughter does not violate the prohibition of itself and its offspring, it would fit to be sacrificed inside the temple. Therefore, it is clear that the prohibition of itself and its offspring does apply to sacrificial. It would be fit to be sacrificed inside the temple. Yeah. I think it's a typo. Does apply to sacrificial animals. Ela Amr Rava Hachika Amr Rav Hamnuna. Ein Malkos also Viespino Noig B'Kadoshim. Rather, Rava said, this is what Rav Hamnuna is saying. Though the prohibition of itself and its offspring does apply to sacrificial animals, the administering of lashes for violating the prohibition of itself and its offspring does not apply to sacrificial animals. Kevin the comment dam loy nishtere basor midon di koshochit havi sofek sofek loy shma. The reason is that since as long as one has not sprinkled the blood, the flesh is not permitted to be burned on the altar or eaten at the time that one slaughters a second animal, when he receives the forewarning that his action violates the prohibition of itself and its offspring, it is an uncertain forewarning, because if the blood will not be sprinkled, the flesh will not be permitted, sparing him from violating the prohibition of itself and its offspring. And uncertain forewarning is not considered a valid forewarning that renders one liable to receive lashes. Chullin. As Rava follows his line of reasoning, as Rava says, according to Rabbi Shimon, who holds that one does not incur punishment for the prohibition of itself and its offspring for a slaughtering that is unfit if she, the mother, is non-sacred and her offspring is a peace offering, and one slaughtered the non-sacred mother, and afterward one slaughtered her offspring that is a peace offering on the same day, he is exempt for slaughtering the offspring. This is because the forewarning for slaughtering the offspring is uncertain, as its blood might not be sprinkled, rendering the slaughtering unfit. Shlomim b'achakach chulin chayav v'marava he chulin uvena oila lo miboya shachat chulin b'achakach shachat oila depaser. But if one slaughtered the offspring that is a peace offering first and sprinkled his blood, and afterward he slaughtered the non-sacred mother, he is liable to receive lashes for slaughtering the mother. Once the non-sacred mother is slaughtered, the meat is fit. Therefore, the forewarning is definite, And Ravis says if she, the mother, is non-sacred, and her offspring is sacrificed as a burnt offering, and both are slaughtered on the same day, it is not necessary to state that if one slaughtered the non-sacred mother, and afterward he slaughtered her offspring as a burnt offering, that he is exempt. This concludes 81a.